Well, good evening to you. What is it today? Oh, it's the 6th of May 2022. Yeah, it's been an interesting day. It's been warm, which is nice, and I've been doing bits and pieces. One of the jobs that needs doing is the fence posts that hold this fence up. Some of them are good, the majority of them aren't. So, one at a time, I've been taking out wooden fence posts, which incidentally are oak, which is handy because oak will burn very nicely in winter, and replacing them with steel. This is supposedly coated with something that no matter what you do to it will stay on the steel. We'll see, you know, in 100 years time I'll worry about that. But yeah, I've done some. I made a decision that I wasn't going to attack the whole job in one go, because that would be, well, frankly, backbreaking. And the other reason being, if you take all of the fence posts down, then nothing holds the fence up. So I've been taking one post down and putting one post up. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that fence. So I got one in the fence at the end. I'm sort of pleased with that. And of course it involved learning words. When you go into a French do-it-yourself shop, it's not a lot of good saying, have you got fence posts? Avez-vous les piquets pour la clôture? Ah oui, bien sûr, monsieur, c'est là. Ah bon, merci. Et avez-vous du béton? Concrete. Interestingly, that was a little problem the other day. They hadn't got any. But Frank, who speaks no English at all, he explained to me it's not a problem. Have sand and cement and put stones in it. And I thought, bless him. I didn't like to say I know that, but anyway, we've got fence posts up. I have been cutting grass because we've had this glorious warm weather and sporadic rain, so the grass has been growing well, but I've been leaving bits because throughout the lawn there are these wonderful orchids, various types of orchid, and I just think we should leave them to do what they're going to do. So there's patches in the lawn where I've avoided cutting to let these orchidy things do whatever it is that orchids do. So that's that. Alan's garden is looking wonderful, except he's been complaining that the pigeons have eaten his lettuce. Into every life a little rain must fall. Oh, apples. We're going to have apples. We are going to have some Mirabelle plums, but not as many as I would have hoped for, because of course the last frosts did polish them off. This funny little bush which came from a shop, it was nearly dead. It was in a pot and it was dry, and that went in the ground 18 months ago. Oh no, a bit longer than that now. And yeah, it's thriving. Anti-rhinum. One of the great things here is people say to you, would you like? And you you smile and they try to explain whatever it is that they think you might like, and they use a name that means nothing to me, and then they show you, and oh yes, so last year I planted anti-rhinum, and of course anti-rhinum do several things. First of all, they do survive the winter, but secondly, they throw seeds everywhere. Now, this great big lump of rock that we're looking at, there's a reason it's got rope all round it, and this was an interesting problem, how to solve the problem of this rock. In what was the pigsty underneath the house, the floor is a mixture of stone and infill and all sorts of stuff that was all carefully angled so that when pigs do what pigs do, you can go in there with a bucket of water and you can wash whatever it is you don't want anymore out of the front of the pigsty. Now, most of the stones were dinky little ones, but when I got my bar under this one, I thought, now that's a bit heavy. That is a bit heavy. I can lift it as a straight lift about an inch. I couldn't lift it enough to get it in the wheelbarrow, and yeah, so what we did, we strapped rope all round it. Incidentally, rope bought at Dauntless Boatyard, Canvey Island. I don't get any paid sponsorship for saying that, but I thought I'd mention it. So I stuck rope all round it, and I found a couple of sheets of scrap hardboard, which I put on the ground, hefted that on and dragged it round. And I've got it that far, and that's where it's going to stay until I work out the next thing to do with it. I might break it up. I certainly won't pick it up and throw it over the fence. Now, hands up, how many of you know the name of the Pope? Yeah, all right, that's one of you. The current Pope is a gentleman known as Pope Francis. And the name Francis is an interesting name because in English you can have a Francis with an IS that is a chap, and you can have a Francis that is an ES that is a lady. Yeah, so we have to watch ourselves a little bit when we use the name Francis. Make sure we know whether we're talking about a chap or a lady. One of my neighbours is a lady called Françoise, which has got an E after the S. She speaks fairly good English, and she's actually more fluent in German than she is in English. If any of you are interested in speaking German to a French lady, please let me know. That's a result, incidentally, of her being the daughter of an army officer who was on the occupation forces, the French occupation forces that occupied Germany after the unpleasantness that ended in 1945. So that's my neighbour Françoise. She is a lady. I have another person that I talk to, friend, a man called Francois, and Francois, he speaks about 20 words of English badly, and he tries to teach me French words for things, and I try to teach him English words for things. I stitched him up a treat the other day. I wrote down the English word sword, S-W-O-R-D, and I said, what do you think that is? And yeah, But anyway, Francois, he's a really nice guy, and he lives in what was, in historical times, the estate manager's house at a chateau. It's quite an interesting house, and part of the estate of the chateau was a brick factory. And so I said, you know, have you got any of the bricks that were made in the brick factory? And he said he had, but all the ones that he'd found so far are the broken ones, the rejects, because of course if you've got a brick factory you sell the bricks, you don't build mountains of them for someone 100 years later to give to their friends. But he managed to find a complete brick. He actually found half a dozen or so, and very kindly he's given me this one. The bricks made in the local factories, very often a large proportion of them have the imprint of the briqueterie that they were made in. And this one was made in the No Marafin briqueterie, which is près Mézières-en-Brenne in the Indre. Now, if you look, that N is badly formed, but the N in Indre is actually the wrong way round. And they left the S of Mézières. Oh well, but there's a brick from the brick factory at the Chateau No Marafin. What I'm going to do with this eventually is, I've got some other bricks with different imprints on, and I'm going to find a use for them.